Well, November is Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and it's a time to raise awareness about the disease and show support for more than the 6.2 million people who are living with it.
One of our 9 News team members has a very personal experience when it comes to Alzheimer's. We're talking about our consumer investigative reporter, Steve Staeger, joining us now. And first of all, just thank you for being open and brave enough to talk about this today, because I know it's not easy.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk. It's part of the reason I'm a consumer reporter. My dad, years ago, locked my mom and dad out of the house, and they called a locksmith, and it was kind of a quick job where next thing I know, I'm getting a call from mom and she says, oh, we're out $1,000. I'm like, you are what? And that kind of led me into looking into businesses that do kind of nefarious things and take advantage of people who are in rough situations.
And talk to us about your journey with your dad having Alzheimer's. And I don't want to leave out the other aspect of your mom having to be a caretaker.
You know, it started, I remember it vividly. I went home for summer, like a little summer vacation, and I remember my mom and dad kind of arguing because my mom wanted to retire. My dad's like, wait, don't do it yet. We're not sure where we are financially. I'm like, you aren't sure where you are financially? He's always the guy who handled all the numbers. And I started to realize that he had no clue. He had, he had been kind of hiding it from us for a while, that numbers didn't really make sense. And after he was diagnosed, we started going back and finding things. He had an app on his phone to reteach him how to read an analog clock, because it was one of the first things that went for him, the inability to understand how a clock works. He had little things set up. He was still working. He had little things set up at the office to try to help and guide him through the day, like reminders that were set. And looking back on it now, I realized like a lot of the things, like I'd call him during the day when he was at work, and he was a lot shorter with me than he ever had been. But it was kind of, I was the one who noticed it because my mom was with him every day and didn't really notice those kind of smaller things. And then we started to kind of progress toward a diagnosis. He was early onset. He was diagnosed at age 66. Which always goes a little bit faster, so we lost him in January. But it was a slow progress of that disease, and then watching my mom, who had him at home for 6 of the 7 years, it was a real tough journey.
Yeah, can you talk about that more? Because I feel like whenever I see you, we're only children who live away from our parents. Our mothers are caretakers. Like, that is a very unique set. And just talk about that a little bit, because I don't think people know how hard it is.
I don't think I realized the toll it took on my mom until he was gone. And then you kind of just realize, like, resetting her life has been so difficult, because that was her absolute everyday. For the longest time was taking care of him. And I think she would kind of look past some things that were going on with her, the stress of all of that, and she'd only care for him. And it's devastating to families. If you know someone who has Alzheimer's, dementia, and who's caring for somebody, or who has any sort of disease, caregivers always are the ones who struggle the most.
And talk about some of the resources too for anybody watching who may be going through this, because I know that the Alzheimer's Association and the chapter here in Colorado, they helped you through this journey.
Incredible. So I had so much help from the Alzheimer's Association here and getting involved and doing stories with them. They were helping me kind of learn what was going on with my mom so I could be a better help from afar. But for my mom at home, like, they're there 24 hours a day. You can call them at any point with any questions you might have. They have advice on support groups. She's found some really incredible, wonderful communities, because what tends to happen is people get so isolated in this fight because other people don't really understand what's going on. And so she found herself kind of like, a lot of friends didn't really know how to talk with her, but she found comfort in support groups where people were going through the same things and offering advice on how to do simple things and tasks around the house that were tough on my dad. But it was a journey for her, and I'm so glad she finally did it. I'm so glad she made the call, because the resources and it's free help. So call the Alzheimer's Association if you're in it.
All right. Thank you again, just for sharing your story and being so open, because I think it is so important.
I'm happy to talk to anybody who has questions. Steve@9news.com.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah.